I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from the United States. He is the CTO at Colorado Technology Consultants. He was first awarded as MVP in 2003. Based on my calculations, that's 20 years ago. He's a Microsoft Regional Director, photographer, public speaker in Colorado Springs. He enjoys developing applications in the Microsoft platforms, not just the Power Platform, but right across the tech stack, specializing in large system architecture and design. You can find links to his bio and social, as well as if we talk about any things that have links to them, they'll be in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, David.
Good to be here, Mark. How are you?
Very good, very good. Good to have you on the show. And I think that of all the last 6 years of my podcasting, you're the longest standing MVP to join.
Yeah, this is an exciting year. It was my 20th.
Wow. That's pretty phenomenal. How many years has the BizApps, and I know it had other names, how many years has that community been running as part of the MVP program?
You know, that's a really good question. I'm not sure when the BizApps one, it really started from CRM, right? It kind of evolved into the BizApps. And I actually started as an ASP.NET MVP, fully on custom software dev. And then I did a stint with Silverlight and then switched over to CRM and then followed on to BizApps.
Wow. So a long journey. You've obviously seen a lot in that time. Before we get into the area that you play in today and what you're focused on, tell us a bit about food, family, and fun from your perspective. I know Colorado. Interesting. I'll give my fun fact about Colorado. My understanding, it has the highest bungee jump in the world. Now, I've done the highest bungee jump in New Zealand, but I understand about once a year there's a festival or something, and the highest bungee jump in the world is done in Colorado.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Royal Gorge, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually a bridge over a creek, and you can jump off it. I'm not big on jumping off a perfectly good bridge, though. I have the same feeling about airplanes and diving out of them.
Mm-hmm. I've done that too. So tell us, food, family, and fun in Colorado.
What about them?
What do you like? As in, what do they mean to you? What's the best steakhouse to eat at? What do you do for fun when you're not doing?
The best steakhouse that we have local is a steakhouse called Peppertree. They actually cook the steak at your table, and they do Caesar salads also. So they bring a little cart, and they actually make the Caesar dressing right in front of you.
Nice. And what do you do? Do you game, or what do you do when you're not doing something in the IT space?
Recently, we've been playing a lot of pool. We got a new pool table, so we've been trying to become pool sharks.
Nice. Is it like a pool, or does it also do billiards? Is it like one of those supersized tables, or?
It's an 8-foot standard, pool table. So we do a lot of 9-ball.
Nice. Hours of entertainment.
Yeah, and sometimes Julie wins, sometimes I win, sometimes we have guests and they kill us.
Nice.
Next time you're out this way, you'll have to stop by and play a game.
Well, are they ever going to run a conference in Colorado?
Dynamics Con, I believe, is here next year in Denver.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. Who knows what will happen between now and then? I till 2 weeks ago, I didn't think I was doing any conferences this year, and now I've been told I'm going there to Microsoft Partner Power Platform Conference in Vegas, and then I've got another one in Slovenia next year coming up. I think May, the Dynamics Minds Conference. So all of a sudden, the world seems to be getting back into pre-COVID gear.
Yeah, I think things are starting to open up again finally, and people are starting to do some in-person type stuff. I was at Build and the MVP Summit. Those are my recent ones that I was at. And I had a good experience, certainly at both. Got COVID at the MVP Summit, which wasn't one of my highlights, but I wouldn't change anything for going. So somebody happened to have it there, got it, checked the box, and moved on.
That is unfortunate. Tell us about what's on your radar at the moment. What are you focused on? What's 2023 shaping up to be for you? What are you excited about in tech that's changed?
There's a number of things I'm excited about. I mean, I think we've gotten to where we've got, especially in BizApps, where we've matured enough to where there's an actual viable product that is being sold and deployed and used by people, and all kinds of people are able to build stuff. I go back to when I wrote CRM as a rapid application development platform. And, it's been a number of years since then, but we've kind of really made that truly a SKU that can come to life on there. And so really excited about that. But I'm also excited about a lot of the AI stuff. I mean, everybody's excited about AI. And I think that excitement bleeds off on everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you just said CRM, rapid development platform?
Yeah.
So this is the crazy thing. We've had such an index on, low code, no code with the Power Platform, and people thinking that the workloads that you can build on it are just the simple things, right? Maybe the Excel replacements, maybe, what I call clipboard-based apps. And yet, through our careers, and I've been 20 years in the dynamic space, I've built some big apps, that involved tens of millions of dollars worth of revenue that evolved around the apps that we built. And it was on, back in the day, we called XRM, and it was allowing us to build anything like, I was talking recently, we've built an app on Dynamics 365 Sales, or Microsoft Sales back in the day, that controls roading assets 11 times the size of the United Kingdom, right? So this is big roading infrastructure in WA, and people, I think there needs to kind of be a pivot back to, you actually can create enterprise scale applications on the Power Platform. So that book you wrote back then really holds true to today.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I'm actually really excited. Microsoft just published a app modernization white paper. Maybe you can provide a link to people in the podcast, but it really drills into a lot of that, and I was happy to participate in some of that. It just recently came out, and it really highlights some of the things. You may not build a stock trading application on it to track the trades, but you can certainly build everything around it. And I think a lot of people turn off to thinking, like you said, that it's only for, maybe a simple business process, but you can do a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I had another one recently, which was for a power utility company, and the app that we wanted built would manage end-to-end the entire sales lifecycle, but also the delivery, implementation lifecycle, and validation of solar systems on homes. Right, so it's quite an app that does a whole bunch of stuff. It has, digital signatures at different points. It has, stage gates of things. There needs to be a property assessment. There's contractors go out to the property. All of that built on the Power Platform end to end, and it's a entire business unit. This is a system that runs the entire business unit.
Well, and if you look at Dataverse, I mean, Dataverse used to be strictly relational data. You now have non-relational data that you can store in there, the elastic storage. We were just looking at that for a scenario today to see if it was applicable where you might otherwise look straight to Azure Cosmos. You can do some of that within the platform, have it tied with the one single API access that you're working with.
Yeah. Tell us about 365.training, which, by the way, if you're listening to this, if you go to 365.training, that is the URL to access the site that Dave has. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so 365 training is all focused on Power Platform. The idea that we had is we wanted, you go to a number of sites, like I won't name them, but you know the ones that have just everything under the sky and you kind of get lost in the sea of content. We wanted to focus on the Power Platform, have some free content, some paid content, kind of a mix of both, some community stuff out there. We've been recently, one of the things I'm really excited about is we've recently been adding speaking of AI, we've been adding that into the platform alongside the training. And it's not going to go learn things for you. We want to help you in that process. Think of it almost like a co-pilot for training.
See, I love this concept. Internally, I'm working on an app that basically will interrogate all of Microsoft Learn and give you, let's say you want to replace an Excel spreadsheet. What do I need to learn if I'm a citizen developer to go and consume that? And so on your platform, are you saying a similar type thing? You can go, hey, I want to learn XYZ skill, and then it will give you of your entire library, which is an extensive library, the kind of path, the things that you need to learn and do.
Yeah, and what we've done is we've paired it with the course topics. So like if you take a PowerFX course, you're going to be able to ask PowerFX questions, and it already knows that you're dealing with PowerFX because each of the co-pilots have context information about that, and we've injected in and fed in some extra information. So it's not just like going to ChatGPT, and getting a stock answer. And you can go to ChatGPT or even GitHub Copilot and ask it a question, but it doesn't know the context that you're in. And that's one of the things that I think is really important about AI. I actually was looking at Copilot for sales, and that's a good example of it's getting smarter, but it's not quite there where it knows the context of the opportunity. And it's those context things that make AI really useful for somebody working with it.
So let's unpack that concept of context, because I don't think a lot of people understand what it potentially means. So we have a large language model. I understand, and I'll tell you my understanding, and you can correct it, is that the context piece is your data coming to the mix, but it can be a bunch of things as well. It can be telemetry data. It could be metadata. It could be the fact that it knows where you're logging in from, who you are, what you've done to date, the context of the training that you're in. It is aware of all these kind of parameters. And so when you ask it a question, it's almost like it constructs the correct prompt engineering to hand back to the large language model to give you a very precise, accurate answer with not too much hallucinations. Is that about right?
Yeah, I like to think about. So we just published a course on Power Pipelines, and if you take pipelines in itself, if you said what is a pipeline, and you went to ChatGPT and asked that, I would imagine there's a good chance you might get something about oil in your answer. Whereas if you go to our site and you ask what is pipelines, it already knows that you're dealing with Power Pipelines because through the prompt engineering, we've already instructed it to that scope. And we also have kind of kept it to say, don't go talk about oil pipelines, talk only about Power Pipelines. And we've also, because pipelines, large language models are trained at a certain point in time, and that's the knowledge that they have. They don't have the ability to gain new knowledge unless it's injected in as part of the prompt that goes in. You see on some models the fine tuning. So for example, on the 3.5 model, they just released the fine tuning, but that's not always necessary. A lot of times you can just tell it along with your prompt, give it some additional context. So like when you ask us about that, if it doesn't know about Power Pipelines because it was released after the model was trained, it wouldn't be able to answer those questions. But we can give it some baseline, some grounding data that helps it understand how to answer some of those questions. It's really good at reasoning, understanding what you're asking for, formatting, and that helps it give a more intelligent answer to the question. And if somebody gives us feedback that, hey, that isn't a good answer, we'll go look at it, take that feedback into mind, maybe give it some more grounding data to give it some more basis for the answer it gives the next time.
So what's your learning curve been like since, November, December last year where, OpenAI splashed onto the world stage, everyone became aware of LLMs that, if you like, it became noticeable in the public consciousness much more than the AI has been around since the 60s, but it's now this whole area of generative AI. For you, and applying this to the Power Platform, what's that learning curve been for you? And where do you find your resources? Because a lot of people, and I know that you're technical by nature and you look at it from a technical lens, but how do lay people get started, do you feel, with their AI journey and in the modern context of how we know AI?
Wow, that's a lot to kind of dive through there. You may have to pick up the pieces as I missed some of the things you asked there. As far as for me, the journey, I was a little bit taken surprise. I followed AI for a while, and it's always been, it's interesting, but there's a high bar to entry. We did some neural network stuff years ago before it was even popular, and now it's gotten much more in the vogue. But you're seeing AI become a lot more approachable by a broad set of people. But at the same time, I think you're also seeing the hype of it exceeding anybody's expectations. It can solve everything. AI can't solve everything. In fact, it'll probably create some more problems for things that weren't problems before that we'll have to figure out. And grounding people's, hype in that AI can't solve everything. And I think where people get disappointed with AI sometimes is they think it's this magical thing that's unicorn that's to just make everything okay. They ask one simple question, it'll do everything for them. And it takes work. Just as I might ask you for feedback on an email or help me compose something, I might ask AI to help with that. Doesn't mean that I'm going to take what you give me and just slap it in and send it without doing any editing on it, right?
Yeah.
I want to put my own personality on it. And those are things that I think you're going to continue. What I'm excited about AI is seeing that personalization, that tailoring, that partnership come to life in the different products and things that you use every day. But at the same time, I'm realistic that, it's not magic. There's technology behind it that, kind of does things on a rational way of doing things. And you have to, not expect it to do the dishes for you.
No, that's good. I like the explanation, but what it sparked in my mind then is how soon do you think, because you gave a bit of, understanding of what it is and what it isn't. For the last 20 years, I've been collecting all my personal data. I'm talking about scripts from going to doctor's appointments, all my insurance policies for the, everything, like all my comms, all my emails, the whole lot. And I want to get to the point that I can feed that into a large language model and it knows me and I can interrogate it to find out what I haven't thought about, what I know and things like that. And do you think we're there? And it's kind of like a digital twin, but for a human, not, an IoT device. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to stop you right there. No, we're not there yet. And the reason for that is that's a bucket load of data. And if you think about AI's memory currently that it's capable of, the context that it's able to talk to and remember that you tell it, it's much smaller than that bucket that holds your life knowledge. And so that's the thing that will evolve over time, I believe, is how much of that it will be able to know without having it's because you don't want it to be trained on your data. You want your data to be used as necessary to answer questions, but it needs to have a large enough capacity that it can pull, the important things, so in your example, it might not need your financials, but might need certain things from medical. It would know how to load that in, use it, and then not be trained on that. Because you don't want it trained on your data, right?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't want to train the model, but I want to kind of anchor it. I don't know. My vision in the next 2 years is that everyone will have an LLM on their phone. There's already been predictions that'll happen within 24 months, that they'll condense the latest LLMs down to around 2 gig in size, and therefore easily can be stored on a phone. And the concept of basically then being able to use that against your data sets. So I could go back and go, okay, where were all the dumb financial decisions I made in my life? It was there, and there, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting is people are going back, and I think companies need to do this, individuals need to do this on their own. How do they do stuff on a daily basis? Be realistic about it, but look at where the AI can help them and where it won't be helping them. And for companies, that means re-envisioning some of the things of how they do business that weren't practical before, that will be practical going forward because of what has enabled it. But you also have to realize that that's going to rapidly change. Even how you do that will rapidly change. So you're going to need to invest wisely in where you spend your resources implementing those. At least that's my opinion. I don't know your thoughts.
No, that's good. That's good. I like that. Listen, just on your website right now, because we're at time to wrap things up, how do people get access to this new AI functionality on 365.training?
So it's on a number of the courses. You'll see 365 AI in the course details. So like PowerFX is a good example of one. One of the things I like to do with PowerFX is ask it to generate some code for me. And then I give it back to it, ask it again, what does this do? And it will explain what the code does for there. But there's a number of courses that have it. Pipelines has it. Dataverse has it. The Dataverse one actually is infused with my Dataverse book. So when you ask it a question about it, it will look at the Amazon book content, look it up, include that in the answer, blended with what it already knows.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.